all your efforts have borne fruit. You've found that job on Wall Street, either as a starting out person or as a mid-level person, and you're really happy in that job. And now you're worried about not getting fired. Everybody on Wall Street is worried about not getting fired. So how do you make sure you don't? What are some of the simple things you can do to not get fired on Wall Street? Hi, this is Shalabh Garg, Finance Dad. I've had a long career in Wall Street. I've worked at banks, I've worked at hedge fund, I've run my own hedge fund currently. I've had big teams of people that have worked for me. I have fired some people along the way. I myself have lost my job along the way. As a senior professional. So I'm very well equipped to at least give you some insight on what are simple things you can do to do the best that you don't get fired and keep your job for as long as you want to keep it, and you manage your career and leave when you are ready to leave. I'm going to cover this topic from a vantage point of both a young professional and a senior professional, and as I go along I will make that distinction of what to do. Some of the things are common. I mean, some of the basic stuff, go the extra mile. What does that mean, to go to the extra mile? Everybody loves a hard worker. If, you know, like that game at the end of the day that you want to play of tennis or you want to hang out with your friends, it can wait. No matter how smart you may be and no matter how senior you may be, if you're getting a salary from an employer, most likely that employer was there 20 years before you joined that firm, and likely is going to be there 20 years after you've left that firm. Of course, I'm taking away the startup or the entrepreneurial jobs from here, and maybe I'll do a segue and cover that separately. But most of the big employers have been there for a long period of time. And you, as a person, as a small, cog in the wheel, someone who is filling a role, and that role can be filled by many other people like yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't bring your own personality and your own way and your own strengths and weaknesses to the job and add value to it in a way that only you can. But it also doesn't mean that if you're fired tomorrow, you can be replaced. Most likely you can be replaced. So go the extra mile by working those hard hours. I'm not saying you always have to be the first to come in and the last to leave, even though it doesn't hurt. But you don't always have to do that. But you also don't have to be the first to leave the job just because you're faster to do the tasks that you're responsible for. Particularly in banks, FaceTime is not the worst thing. People talk about how I don't want to do a FaceTime job. What's so wrong with doing the FaceTime job? Do the FaceTime. Stay with your boss an extra hour or an extra half hour to make them feel that you really value that job. More than anything else, it tells your employer that you want to keep this job, that this job means a lot to you. Dress up for the job. Do not dress up shabbily. It's like the most horrible thing as a boss to see, to have someone rolling out of their bed and showing up for a job. It's disrespectful. If you have a client-facing job, you certainly cannot do that, because who knows on the trading floor what clients may come in, and you may be pulled into a meeting, and you do not want to show up that way. You want to, that old adage that people say, dress up for the job that you want and not the job you have. It is actually true. You want to dress up for the job that you want. You want to get promoted. You want to get, more than anything else, you want to respect your colleagues and bosses. And nothing is more disrespectful than someone showing up in clothes. I'm not saying you have to dress up in expensive clothes. I'm just saying you have to dress up in freshly ironed, clean clothes, and that things that fit you with hair properly done, if you have hair, and so on and so forth. Another one, the written word. The written word does not go away. Do not send emails to anyone or texts or WhatsApps. This goes on for your personal life as well. Those words that you write, they will be saved by your institution, particularly in finance, for several years. If you've done any of the series 3, 7, or 63, you know this. You know that those emails, the banks are required, any financial institution is required to save for multiple years. And once you've written it and press send, they will never be deleted. I cannot stress this point enough. Do not write anything in an email that may be of personal nature. That email that you're dying to write to your supervisor and how stupid she is, do not write that email. It will never go away. More than anything else, down the road when you're getting fired, those emails will be used against you. So, if you can take away one important thing from this podcast than any other, is do not put anything in writing. Your emails are not your property. Those are property of your employer. You're just being given the right to be able to use it as a facility. So hence, you do not want to use that email to write anything. The simple rule of thumb, If your boss or your colleagues are sitting next to you or standing next to you, and as you're writing that email, they would approve of that email with everybody seeing it all at the same time, that's the email you want to send. I'm sure you already know this through all your compliance trainings that you routinely receive, that a compliance officer of some kind, somewhere, sitting somewhere in some office, is reviewing those emails on a day-to-day basis all the time. They're not just taking your emails, but by keyword searches of words that are not supposed to be used in emails, they're pulling up random emails and doing checks on what employee may have written. For example, if you send your resume to yourself, resume is a very clean keyword that compliance officers use all the time. Use your personal email for all those purposes, not your work email. Another one I want to bring up, coffee machine gossip. A very common feature of all bank jobs and financial Wall Street jobs is that there is a massive coffee machine that everybody congregate around. And why do they do that? Because it gets boring and stressful sitting on the desk. Everybody wants to take a break, and you find several other colleagues or bosses hanging out there talking. Talk and say nothing. There is no purpose to a discussion on clothes or work or colleagues or bosses or employer, or the issues that the employer may be facing, or the news that may have recently come out about the employer on Bloomberg. Any discussion on that coffee machine is useless. Do not have it. Now, if you want to talk at that coffee machine about some sport that occurred the previous night and somebody that won that sport and so on, fine. But beyond that, no conversation is good conversation. And any conversation to criticize your boss or employer, I promise you, will reach the wrong ears. It absolutely will reach the wrong ears, and will reach those ears at a time where you least want it to reach. So do not have that conversation. Your job, you're not there to have fun. You're not an employer. You're there to accumulate value in yourself and have fun in a professional sense. But you're not there to socialize. You're there to do a job, do the job in the best possible way, and leave. And stay the extra hour and leave. Those coffee discussions, I cannot tell you how destructive they can be in the long run towards your career, particularly if they're of the gossipy kind, where the gossip may be about a colleague, a boss, or the employer generically. You know what? A conversation that goes like, you know what they did? They did not pay bonuses last year to this and this way, or they cut down bonuses by 20%. These are bad conversations to have and not going to serve your interest. You're there to further your interest as an employee and rise through the ranks. How is that conversation going to serve that purpose? The next one I want to talk about is social events. There will be many social events that you will organize or you'll be invited to. Some of them may or may not have clients. Many of them may be just team building exercises. Go for them. Go for each one of them and stay until the end. Do not be in a hurry to leave. These are fantastic opportunities to highlight your interpersonal skills. And again, every one of these social events is kind of an interview. They're not there for you to have fun. You're not there to get drunk. You're not, again, there to gossip. You're not there to badmouth your employer. Those are there for you to evaluate your colleagues at an interpersonal levels, an opportunity for your bosses, or if your clients are there, then for clients to evaluate you on an interpersonal level. What do I mean by that? Interpersonal as in how do you communicate, how do you carry yourself, what pride did you exhibit in your employer and your position. Everybody wants to see that. This is more than half your life is being spent working in these employment situations, right? You're spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day, not counting the 7 or 8 hours you sleep. That's more than half the time of your life that you're spending at your employer. Your colleagues and bosses are doing the same thing. They want to see you proud of that job. They want to see you expressing that pride to the client, keeping your employer's perspective at the same time. So do that. Exhibit your interpersonal skills, dress up for the event, and stay until the end, and do not get drunk at the event. And certainly don't misbehave. When I say misbehave, maybe that's an extreme word, but even sort of mild flirting or things that are inappropriate at a social event, just trust me, things will get back to the employer, your bosses, by the next day, almost for sure. And why do things that are not going to further your career? That's the reason you're there. If you're not going to do that, trust me, there's 3 other people who will, and watch out for their interpersonal skills. And by the time the bonuses come around at the end of the year, it will have an impact there. Some specific notes around performance-related jobs where you're at the front line. You're doing a trading job or at a hedge fund in a revenue generation job. Obviously, it goes without saying that meeting targets is important. If you're at a hedge fund, returns and making money is very, very important. But there can be times where even, and if you're at the extreme of those performances where you're so good that nobody cares how you are in your personal life, or you're so bad that it doesn't matter how good you are interpersonally, both are horrible positions to be in. Sorry, one of them is a horrible position to be in, because if you're at such bad performance, you are going to get fired. You might as well start looking for another job, and you're just so good. But you know what? I'll tell you this. Even if you're at the tippy top of your performance at a bank or a hedge fund, but horrible at an interpersonal level, in today's day and age, you may still lose your job. And you may be wondering afterwards as to, oh my God, I did everything right. I made all the money I was required to. How can I lose my job? Well, because you were not good at an interpersonal level. And in today's day and age where everything is on social media and the employer's name can be spoken of in a bad light because of something you did, clearly that's not going to fly. So even with stellar performance, there is a chance they may give you one cut or two cuts before they fire you. Ultimately, they will fire you. So don't take that performance. It's a necessary but not a sufficient condition to keeping your job. Look, I offer a consulting hour. You can obviously reach out to me through the box below you, and I can go into detail based on your personal situation and your personal resume on things you can and cannot or should not do to further your career better and certainly not getting fired. And as I'm finishing up, I'm realizing that I may have been too negative with respect to how to not get fired. It's not a common event. It's not like employers are hiring you and then immediately looking for reasons to fire you. In fact, quite the opposite. There's a cost attached for the employer each time that they fire you. They have to pay you severance. They have to replace you. These are things that cost money, right? They're not looking to, they would rather you stay there for as long as possible and serve their interests in the best possible way. So firing you is not a fun thing for anyone to do. So if you are getting fired, you've obviously done something along the lines of covered. So I don't want to leave you by saying that somehow you'll join Wall Street and immediately have to look on your left, look on your right, and make sure that you don't get fired. That is not the case. In fact, quite the opposite. A good, fruitful career on Wall Street can go on for a long period of time. And that is what you should work towards, but at the same time, hope the points that I've covered help you avoid the basic pitfalls on Wall Street, even elsewhere, on how not to get fired. That's all I have. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my podcast. That's the way for me to grow it. And until next time, this is Finance Dad signing off.